Hello and welcome to part 2 of PVM accessory and useful items. Today we will go through familiars, some types of armor, and a few other things. Let's start with familiars. You have the binding contracts, also known as the red pouch familiars. We will start with the Blood Reaver, where 33% or 1/3 of your healing will be dealt as subtypeless damage towards your main target. The Blood Reaver also has a passive where it has a bigger chance to proc your god books, which is referring to the jazz book that I have equipped, the Wen book, and the full book. Of course, it also has a scroll, which if you put inside the familiar, and set the auto fire, and the familiar has special points to use the special move, it will keep healing you for 5% of the familiar's max life points. Now, to keep this familiar alive, because it's gonna run out of life points, we have to use this spell, Prism of Restoration, and you can find this on the Ancient book under Combat Spells. You might need some quest for this, but it's more than worth bringing to the battle to keep your Reaver alive, or your Hellhound should you choose to use that instead. One of the best ways to use the Reaver familiar is to use Soul Split, or Vampirism Aura, or Vampirism Scrimshaw if you are using melee, because the Scrimshaw is a melee only Scrimshaw. Next up, you have the Hellhound familiar. And the Hellhound familiar will take 20% of the damage dealt to you, and it will lose life points based on the damage taken. This familiar will also die really quick unless you use the scrolls to heal it, or you use the Prism of Restoration to keep it healed up. Both of these familiars are really good to use when you are fighting someone that is immune to familiar damage, or you are struggling with taking a lot of damage. Examples being racial, or in some cases suck. Your next familiar is your true and only Ripper Demon. It's just a familiar that does a lot of damage. It is the new Steel Titan. It is just going to carry you with all the damage it does. The Ripper Demon also uses special scrolls to perform the Death from a Bow special, which will deal 200 to 320 of their max hit. This is a quite expensive familiar to keep using, with a scroll price being almost 6k per, and the scroll being a bit over 100k, but it's definitely worth it for any serious PVMing. The Ripper Demon does also not need any form of healing like the Prism of Restoration, unless the boss you are fighting is going to kill it. There are a few bosses that are immune to familiar damage, which make the Ripper Demon completely useless to bring. A few of these bosses are Urago, Rise of the Six, Araxor, and Racial. You have two more familiars which you can use in these places where they are completely immune against damage and you are not struggling to survive. You can use a Calgarian Demon, which is focusing on giving you extra critical damage. 1% for it to be alive, and 5% for using the scroll. The scroll will boost all the people around you as well as long as they're close to you. So you can boost your group before a boss fight, like Rise of the Six or Virago. There is one last type of familiar, the Nihils. The Nihils come specifically useful if you are using range at Rise of the Six with chins, or you're fighting Virago where accuracy is a problem. From the tooltip you can see they are boosting your accuracy by 5%. The Shadow Nihil is for range. The Smoke Nihil is for magic. The Blood Nihil is for melee. And the Ice Nihil has now become a Necromancy Nihil. There are a few places where these are better than anything else, but they do have their place in the game. Now, speaking of monsters where they behave different, like being immune to reflect damage or poison damage, they might also have specific weaknesses, like being undead, where the Salve Amulet would work. Then we should speak about the Ghost Hunter armor. The Ghost Hunter armor is a 4-piece outfit armor that boosts damage against undead creatures. You can see set effect 1 piece. Set effect 1 with 2 pieces will give you 3% damage, wearing 3 pieces will give you 6% damage, and wearing all 4 pieces will give you 10% damage against ghostly targets. And these includes Barrow's Rise of the Six. They could also include other important or good bosses or creatures, but nothing comes to mind. They are also used to kill Linsa among the normal Barrows brothers, but they are not really that useful because they don't affect everything. If you don't have a suck cape, it is definitely your best in slot cape for when it works. Now, if you are rich and you have good armor, you would have the tier 95 armor with the set effects that makes your conjures deal more damage and last longer. This is well and good as long as you remember to manually cast Invoke Death, as the tier 90 armor that is power class would do this by itself, but this armor does not. And the same is going for the tank armor here, where it will not do Invoke Death by itself. There is also a set effect here that says per piece worn gain 2% dodge chance. Now, this would be 10% wearing all 5 pieces, which is really not that big and will not really help you that much in the big run. Darkness is doing 20% by itself, and this does not apply to everywhere where bosses bypasses the accuracy check. Well, they would hit you no matter what. The bosses that ignore this check would be Racial, Ambassador, also bosses that doesn't splash but deals half the damage is Virago's Magic Bomb, all hard typeless damage like Virago's Red Bomb, Green Bomb, as well as Yakamaru's attack, Beastmasher's attacks. They all ignore this accuracy check and will hit you no matter what. Like I've discussed in my example video for Racial, You could use Animate Dead as a replacement for Darkness with 3 pieces of magic tank armor that are not going to be shown in this video, but you can go back and refer to that kill. There is another armor set that I want to quickly talk about. That is the Obsidian set. The only monsters the Obsidian set work on is Obsidian monsters, which will be the Tassars, the Jads, the Dillons, the Harakin, and Suck himself. It is absolutely worth bringing the Obsidian armor to Suck if you are struggling with damage from mobs, the pizza face, or Suck himself. If you're not using Necromancy, the specific helm will give you a massive accuracy and strength buff. If you're using Necromancy, there is no helm, sadly. There is a body, legs, gloves, boots, and shield. Although you would not use the gloves and you would not use the shield. You would bring the boots, body, and legs, and you would go to the Fight Cauldron and donate Tokul to make the buff even bigger, where it's basically a 50% damage reduction to all Tassar for an hour. Now I said you will not use the gloves, and why is that? That is because Tassar creatures are poisonable, and if a creature is poisonable, you will always use your Cinderbane gloves. They are your best in slot as long as the monster is poisonable. It works together with weapon poison, and it works together with Quarmins and sticks. They also work with range and the poisoner's arrows there, and they do a lot of damage. Examples of bosses where you would bring this would be Suck, Karapak, and Solak. Now we are almost done. We still have a few items left here, and they are armor spikes, specifically Abyssal Armor Spikes Alloy, which are damage enemy, 25% chance to apply a stack of Parasite to deal 5 times 18 to 31 bleed damage over 9 seconds. Each additional activation with this time frame adds another stack of Parasite or restrains the effect, capping at 937 to 1562 damage per hit. If an enemy dies with a parasite affecting them, 50% of them will spread to all nearby enemies. This is basically your melee pocket slot item, but it also works from the inventory, which the Simorgel Nexus does not. As you see, my Bone Shield level just dropped to 60, and it will take some time for it to go back up to 76. Now, I've been talking about familiars that use their special abilities with their scrolls. Now, there is a potion here called a Spiritual Prayer Potion, which is restoring your prayer, but also restoring your familiar special attack. And if you are really, really good at PVM and you don't need food, you can bring these instead of your super restores or prayer potions, and you can bring a lot of them, like 5 in inventory, and you can really, really juice that Reaper Demon special attack to get some massive damage in. But if not, well, then you're saving some money by not bringing it, I guess, because the scrolls and the potion itself are expensive. Now, our last item for this video after Visvax is Dominion Mines. Now, the Visvax is really, really helpful. It is mainly used to reset or extend auras, specifically combat auras called the Circle auras, if you're using range, magic, or melee. you would reset and extend your Berserker aura, your Maniacal aura, or your Reckless aura. If you're more of a skiller, you can reroll or extend your daily challenge, which is useful at times for double the XP in rewards or getting a better skill or something like that. You can also use your Visvax to extend your divine location limit per day, which is not a PVM thing, but it's useful. And especially if you want to train woodcutting, extending it for divine use is a decent chunk of woodcutting XP. My personal favorite, though, is quick teleports, and I'm gonna charge all because I don't like using the slow lodestone teleports. And you see now I consumed, 14 Visvax for 140 teleports. And if you see here, my cap, the cap for everyone is 4,000, and I have 3,995. That's Visvax for you. It's useful if you're a skiller or PVMer. Go do your gold rune machine every day and get your close to 100 Visvax. Save yourself some money, gain some benefits. Here we have the Dominion Mines. You unlock them from Dominion Tower by doing a bunch of things, which I will not list. When you permanently unlock them, you can buy unlimited amounts for pure GP. What they do is when you fight monsters with a combat level of 138 or less, they will explode, dealing damage, which will help you deal with bosses or minions. The most used places for this are the Blackstone Dragon Hands, the Siriu Black Crystal, or sometimes, but not always, or whatever. You can also drop them on P3 or 5 at Urago to kill Vitalysis, even though that's not really brought to kills anymore. That's all I have for now. I hope you liked the video. Subscribe or not. I don't really care.